President Schulz.
Good evening, members of the committee, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Dave Schulz, the president of Morris Minutemen EMS. I'm joined tonight by Linda Maggio, 15-year member, trustee, and lieutenant, and our assistant captain, Ryan Hauser. Our duty team and a couple other members were here, and there was the announcement of food, and we all know that. I see on the agenda tonight I'm here to talk about changes in operation. And I want to clarify, I want to talk about how there's not going to be changes in operation for this year, or actually hopefully the next 75 years. So if you would give me 5 minutes of your time, I'm going to speak to something that I'm passionate about, which is Morris Minutemen, volunteerism in New Jersey, volunteerism in EMS. So we've been around, we the Minutemen have been around for 75 years. Last year we celebrated our 75th anniversary. And we're about 85 members strong. We are the only squad left in Morris County that I'm aware of that sleeps at the building, provides around-the-clock coverage by stationing at the building. We don't do blue lights. We do this with 85 volunteers, including those that go away to college and return, or those like Ryan who go away to college and live at home so they can run Minutemen calls. We put in an average of 35,000 volunteer hours a year. 35,000 volunteer hours a year. Last year we had 2,600 calls for service. That's not number of patients, that's the number of times that the tones came through the ceiling, almost 2,600 times. And that ends up in about 2,900 patient encounters. Why the difference? You go to a crash, maybe there's multiple patients. You go to a fire call and we might treat a couple firefighters, so that's why there's not a correlation. The number of charts, the number of patient encounters is always higher. We have seen a 2.5% increase in volume on average each year for the past 5 years. By profession, I'm a planner, so I work with our board. We have an awesome board, excellent board, and we do some planning. What does this mean long term? Right? It's getting harder and harder to find volunteers. Right? We do our best. We go to county college. We go to the churches. We do word of mouth, and our rate of new members is slow. I think we're better than any other squad in the area in this aspect, but it's getting harder and harder to find members. We're getting them, but boy, as we get busier and busier, I'd like to have them come in at a faster rate. I'm on the Board of Adjustment in Morris Plains, so I see the development that's happening in Morris Plains. So we have a second assisted living facility happening that's underway. I keep tabs on development in Morris Township through discussions with some of the members of your governing body. I think 261 James Street and the South Street corridor is going to continue to be attractive to Atlantic Health and others to provide medical services. And the more doctor visits there are in Morris Township, more ambulance calls there are in Morris Township. So some people go to the doctor and they say, doc, my chest is hurting. I put on the 4-lead and they say, well, it's because you're having a heart attack. So guess who they call? They call 911. And there's a response from the Minutemen. So we look at this, and all right, this trend is going to continue, we think. It's going to be harder and harder to find members. Additionally, we're interested, as we have been for at least 15 years, we're interested in becoming better. So a little scary thing about volunteer EMS in New Jersey. I brought with me a printout of the regulations that cover volunteer EMS in New Jersey. Right? Completely unregulated. So volunteer EMS in New Jersey is unregulated. So there's no law, statute, or regulation that requires an EMT to respond on a volunteer squad. There's no law, regulation, statute, or rule that requires vehicles to be inspected on a volunteer agency. There's zero. I could go on and on, just trust me, there's zero. We, the Minutemen, for 15 years have self-established a high bar. Our goal is 2 EMTs on every call. We have one singular member that's driver only. He's been around for 15 years, right? Or 15 years last year. And he is our only driver-only member. We require everybody else to be EMTs. So our goal is 2 EMTs on every ambulance every time. We won't leave the building if we don't have 1 EMT for the back. I will say that squads surrounding us, volunteer squads surrounding us, will go with no EMTs. And that's okay. We won't do that. We submit our vehicles for inspection by the Department of Health. And while we don't get that big garish sticker that you see on licensed vehicles, we have a letter from them that says we passed, we met the requirements. We don't have to do this. We choose to do it. Our record keeping complies with Department of Health regulations for a licensed squad. So for 8 years, we've been on EMS charts. All our medical records are electronic. You don't even have to keep paper for a volunteer squad. So I dare say that we are one of the best in this state. Best volunteer agencies in the state. I certainly say that I think we are the best in Morris County. No all-volunteer squad does a volume like we do. And I will tell you that the town to the west, their volunteer squad stopped taking day calls 6 years ago. Our squads to the north in Parsippany struggle a bit, and Parsippany has opted to have paid EMS service as a primary. And to our center, we have a volunteer squad that didn't do so much future looking and now operates out of a hotel. So if you go past the Best Western, you're going to see some ambulances in the back because they don't have the headquarters. They have few members. And Atlantic Health provides the vast majority of services, EMS services in the town of Morristown. So we, the board, the membership, began discussions last year. What can we do to make sure we stay relevant? What can we do to make sure that we have great response times? What can we do to ensure that we can get not only that first ambulance out, but the second around the clock? We have 4 ambulances, and about twice a year we thump ourselves on the chest when we have 4 calls, and you go down and we take the picture of the ambulances at Morristown Memorial, all 4 blue ambulances lined up. Nobody else can do that. Despite all these accolades, despite my chest thumping, we're looking and say, what can we do to ensure improvements in the future? And after months of investigation, after months of talking to membership, after months of discussions with Morris Plains, representatives of Morris Township, county administration, our attorney, our accountant, the Department of Health, we've amended our bylaws last year to allow use of paid staff, not compel use, to allow use. And with that comes the need to bill. For 75 years, if you have ever read my fund drive letters, it's a tradition of zeros. 0 bills, 0 days off, 0 salaries. But what do we do when in about 2 or 3 years, I think we're going to need 53,000 volunteer hours? Why do I say 53,000? I think we're going to need 2 trucks during the day, guaranteed. I think it makes sense to have our headquarters here and maybe some growth on this side of town, because the township's getting busier, that hole in the donut's getting jammed up, right? So if we want to improve our response time, and we certainly can't budget for a helicopter, a truck on this side makes sense. So that needs extra crew. So we put the vote to membership. This was not a decision of the board. Right? We had to amend our bylaws. We put the vote to membership, and 87% of the voting members agreed that this was the right move. So I think at some point during calendar year 2017, you will see paid staff supplement our volunteers. Supplement. This is so important. If you remember nothing else that I told you today, we are not replacing our volunteers. We are supplementing the volunteers with per diem staff. We don't anticipate full-time employees at this time. This is kind of per diems to fill gaps and to get that second ambulance all the time. Where does this take us in 5 years? I think in 5 years, we will have a very successful model. We've talked to other squads around the state that have this hybrid model. Cedar Knolls has it. The township has it for fire. Right? EMS is a little bit different, but the township, this is not new for the township. And we're going to make this work. And what it's going to do, it's going to result in bills to insurance companies. I affirm to you, we will never send anything to collections. Right? We're going to come back with details of that. I've talked generally to Dan, Tim, and Bruce just last week. There are some specifics that come with that, so we can do that legally, and we're going to work that out with our attorney and building company. But what this is going to do is offer improved coverage, improved response time, at no out-of-pocket costs to our constituents, to your constituents. So why is this a bad thing? It's a bad thing because we lose that chest-thumping ability to say we're all volunteer for another 75 years. But I dare say that if you don't plan for the future, it's going to eat you for lunch. And we do not want to be left in the dust. We do not want, and I hope there's nobody here from Atlantic, if there is, all due respect, we do not want Atlantic taking over our territory because we can't do it. We don't want other agencies coming in here because we can't do it. I'm going to quote Dan Caffrey, "The future of EMS in Morris Township is at 97 Mill Road." I firmly believe that. Our board firmly believes that. Our members firmly believe that. What does it take for us to guarantee improvements, consistent high quality of service in a timely fashion? And I think a hybrid model is what it takes. I will tell you in closing that we are figuring this out long before it's too late. So let me share with you, please, our calendar year 2016 statistics. Realizing this was all volunteer, we had teams in place for 99.3% of our calls. 99.3% of our calls we had teams in place for. The few times that we missed, because somebody got sick. Really tough on volunteers when somebody calls us sick out in the morning. What do you do? Right, really tough. We try to cover it. We're not perfect. 78 times out of 2,600, 78 times, we had to get help from somebody else because we had 1, 2, 3, or 4 ambulances already on the road. So one time last year, there was 5 calls at the same time. You have 4 trucks. All we do is get all 4 on the road, then we have to call for help. So Cedar Knolls or Atlantic has come in 78 times. Conversely, we've provided mutual aid to others 150 times. So that's really incredible. We are covering 99.3% of a high call volume with all volunteers. So we are healthy. We are looking to say, what does it take to remain healthy for the next 75 years? So again, just in closing, I said that once, this is to supplement the volunteers, not to replace. If we get, the reason why we're using per diems, if we get complete coverage with volunteers, guess what we're not using? The per diems. The per diems are when we can't provide that coverage. It's a fill, not a replacement. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I want to applaud you and the rest of the members and board for really digging deep down, realizing and having a vision of the future and knowing what some of those hurdles will be. And for putting in a lot of time. I know this just wasn't like something you did overnight and came up with this plan. I know the amount of work that went into this, and I know the amount of work that a lot of you guys put into this. I applaud you, and by the way, on their own time. I applaud you, and I know the citizens of Morris Township and Morris Plains are lucky to have the Morris Minutemen responding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a comment. I think that was a really an excellent presentation, very well thought out and very heartfelt. It's really refreshing to have a presentation like the one you just gave, and I really applaud you for the services and for gaining the support of your membership to do what I really think is necessary for you to do.
Okay. So it absolutely was heartfelt. I made it up on the fly.
Thank you, Dave. You did a great job.
Thank you.
And your team is wonderful.
Dave, thank you. You know, I have a special relationship with the squad. My father was a past president and captain. My uncle was a captain and a lieutenant down there. And I grew up as a little kid running around those bays and absolutely loving the squad. If I didn't pass out at the sight of my own blood, I'd probably be a member, but I wouldn't be much of help. But you know, we have the Township of Morris appreciates everything you do, but we have 110% your back on this. And whatever you need, we're here to work with you, do whatever we can, because obviously you know it and we know it, our public safety is our #1 priority. So yeah, 75 years of volunteerism, but you know what? You're putting public safety first, and we all truly appreciate that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Dave, thank you very much from all of us. It's just a pleasure knowing that we all live here in town and that we have people like you, all the people who work with you and for you, to back us up and be there when we need you. So God bless you and your organization.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I want to thank you because you recall maybe I was a bit terse with some of my concerns that we had when we had a meeting about response times. And it wasn't a reflection on the Minutemen. You're volunteering your time to assist the residents. It's a reflection of the number you just gave us, increased calls. You're running mutual aid calls into other towns because maybe they don't have the type of service that you provide. And so I know it was, although 80-something% of the members voted to approve the way you're doing it, I really do want to thank you personally, not just on behalf of the committee, but I had expressed some concerns, and you've done more than address them. And I think not only is your experience in this field helpful to what you did, I think your business acumen and everything that you described is really a credit, and so thank you for taking that skill set into this as a volunteer. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. And actually, I think it was a great meeting last year, regardless if terse or not. And I actually asked the mayor this week to set up another one for this year because I think this is a good way to coordinate things. So we'll
Great,
see you
thank
there.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, sir.